Been a little while since I made a video, so I figured now would be a good time. Uh, we are I'm not gonna say we're far into what we're doing, but we're definitely past the tip of the iceberg, and I'm happy about that. Actually, very happy about that. Currently, quite a bit's been going on, in like a good way though. So, so the last video I think was on the 21st. I think, I don't know for sure. But if it is, then a lot has changed. I guess I could check and see when that was. Yeah, let me check it real quick. I'll be right back. Alright, I was wrong. Looks like it's on the 30th. So the 30th was just about 1 week through. So it's currently June 9th, so we're definitely a little bit further in. Yeah, so we've had full weeks now where we know what our entire schedule is like and how things are going. And in fact, so we're definitely in the exam season, but it'll be all right. As for how things have been going beyond that, I guess I'd say things are going fairly well. Just having to work on keeping a good attitude, making sure that the entire class is contributing to our goals and that we're all helping each other out where needs be. Like, I made an EKG video because people were struggling. Someone went through an anatomy lecture, and we're holding it together pretty well, which is nice. Leading up to the first exam, the anxiety is definitely there. It's not awful though, which I'm happy about. It's manageable, but it definitely is a lot because you're having to balance. So right now we're taking 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We're taking 7 classes, so it's the challenge of having to balance an exam in one class while still making sure you're keeping up to date in the other 6. So that's probably the hardest bit. So your days off aren't really days off. They're just days you don't have class. Which I kind of expected going into this, but you know. So what I've been doing is I've just been going through previous lectures, the slides specifically, and figuring out my weak points, trying to hit the highlights. I'm not going to get too hung up on details. I'll pay attention to details a bit, but I'm not going to like hyper focus on them like I would in undergrad. Undergrad, depending on the professor, I knew that if they talked about it the smallest bit, it would be on there, but not even that. So like, they'd pick apart a specific image to the point where if you didn't know every intricate detail, not only of how it worked, but why it worked and what it affected, you were going to fall behind. Or you were going to miss the question. But thankfully, this seems like it just covers a broader spectrum of targets or questions. So my main goal is just hit the highlights, know the big stuff, know how it works, and don't get too hung up on the if-then. So like, if a calcium channel is blocked, then what happens? I'm kind of hoping that it's not going to be that level of depth. So I'm just kind of pinning broad strokes and hoping that my background of just knowing the big picture topics, the heavy hitters, that will kind of carry me through. But I'd be lying if I said I wasn't at least a little concerned about him going into depth. But I'm just going to have to play that one by ear. Now for EKG, I know that we're going to have to go in depth on, but the exam also covers a lot less for EKG, which is better in my opinion. But because this is the summer semester, we only have 10 weeks. So compared to an average semester, which is, I don't know, I think like 16 or something, we are condensing the hell out of stuff. I mean, in one day for physiology, we went over 8 slide sets, which is a lot. So it's just, there's no way that we can know. I did the math. There's no way we can know. It's about 300 slides in total. It's just impossible for us to know 300 slides to that level of depth and not have other classes. I think you know what I'm saying. Like, we can't have the book and the slides and everything entirely memorized, every figure, everything to a T, while we have other classes. It just simply does not work. Not to mention that the reading for next week, the assigned reading between Intro to Clin and Airway is 351 pages of textbook. I don't know about you, but I don't got time for that. I cannot justify 351 pages of textbook reading. It's just, assuming each page took 2 minutes, which, depending on how fast of a reader you are and how much of the information you want to retain, I mean, let's do the math real quick. I got a calculator right here. So 351 pages, so 351 by 2 minutes each, that's 702 minutes, divided by 60 to give us hours, that's 11.7 hours of textbook reading. That's excluding breaks, excluding times you gotta reread something because you zoned out. That is just 11.7 solid hours of textbook reading. I have better uses for my time. I mean, I've got 5 other classes. So, one of the key things for this semester is just figuring out where those lines are in terms of, like, what is important, what's not important, and how do I emphasize the important stuff. That's been the main thing so far. And for all I know, I am dead wrong. And that for physiology, I'm going to go in there feeling confident, I'm going to bomb. Do I realistically think that's going to happen? I don't think so, but is it a possibility? Anything's a possibility. So I'm just going to aim for the fat end of the bell curve. I'm not going to make myself miserable for 5 extra points. Because if he gets broad topic on everything, I'm good. And if he gets, let's say 10% of the questions are the really niche stuff, I could get a 90 on the exam in, we'll call it 4 hours of studying. But in order to get a 100 on the exam, it might take 10 or 12 because of all the fine details. So it's just about finding that balance, I feel like. Just hopefully my little gamble's paying off, or it will pay off. But I'll know on what day is. That's the 13th, I think. Let me see. Yeah, I'll know on the 13th. So, and I'll also find out on the 19th how that one goes. Other than that, classes are pretty fun. Med term's pretty laid back. It's just medical terminology. If you took that in undergrad, you're gonna be in good shape. Lab is hands-on, which I really appreciate. Intro to Clin is we're kind of in like the laying the foundation section of the class, so we'll just have to see how that one pans out. Anatomy and physiology. Why did I do it like that? Hang on. There we go. Let's see. So med term I just said, lab I just said, intro to Clin I just said, EKG. EKG is practical in the sense of we are learning from the textbook, we are looking at slides, we are getting lectures. It's not hands-on, but the information we're learning is one-to-one applicable to real life, and I like that. The stuff we're learning is actually stuff we're going to apply. Airway, same kind of thing. It is just the kind of boring stuff, but it's the boring stuff that helps lay the foundation. So that's that's the good news for us, is that all, like, the airway anatomy we had, and it was pretty in-depth anatomy of the airway, but an entire section of our job relies around the airway. If you don't secure the airway, if you don't have good airway, if you're not able to properly oxygenate or ventilate the patient will suffer. So in that respect, airway is incredibly important, which means this class is incredibly important. So I get that one more. Anatomy and physiology, we have touched on some things that I feel like are going to be really useful, but we've also hit on some things I don't really think are directly applicable to anesthesia. Like, we had an entire lecture on the ear, but it was also like the cochlea and the semicircular canals and, the otoliths and all that kind of stuff. Like, it's good knowledge to have. I just wonder where the applicability is going to be. I mean, if we end up working for like an ENT surgeon, well then yeah, I suppose it is more relevant in that respect, but I mean, I guess you have to lay the foundation to build a house, so we'll just have to see how that develops. But we're just kind of hitting the general stuff right now. Med term, we're just doing general stuff. Lab is focused because it's anesthesia lab. Intro to clin, we're kind of doing generic stuff right now. ECG, we're getting into the meat of it, which I'm happy about. I'm saying we're in the meat of it. A&P, we're just hitting generic stuff. For at least the first exam, if you took A and P, not like A and P, but if you took A and P in college, then a lot of this will probably be a refresher. But depending on how long ago you took A and P, you might be refreshing on 4-year-old knowledge, which is a little bit different than if you took it last week. So in a sense, you're learning it fresh, but you already kind of have a backing. I have a strong physiology background, so I'm feeling optimistic. I'll use the word optimistic. And just have to see how that one pans out. I don't know if I'll make a video directly after it or not, but I'll probably make one at least at the end of the week to kind of go over it. Other than that, it's just kind of been setting the foundation and staying ahead. I have a to-do list for today. I've already gotten a little bit done on it. So let's see. Of all of the things, I have that one's getting ahead, that one's getting ahead, that one's not getting ahead, this one's not. No. Kind of, yeah, I'll call it. That one. So yeah, out of my list of like 7, 8 things, 3 of them are just getting ahead. Other stuff is pertinent to this week. But even then, I'm not doing things day of. Like, if you're doing it the day before, you think further ahead. I've done some assignments for med term specifically. The next assignment I have due is on the 30th. But I have a quiz on the 24th, so But stay ahead. Well, get ahead and then stay ahead. In the very beginning, they'll start you out pretty slow. When you are in that time frame, just do as much as you can. I wrote down how many hours I was studying. So classes didn't start until the 28th. Between that Sunday and Monday, so on the 26th and 27th combined, I studied for 6.5 hours. We hadn't even started some classes yet. So, in that week, I studied for 31.75 hours. And I just did the math on last week. So, from the 2nd to the 8th, I studied for 41.5 hours. That's including some of the class times. And I kind of took Saturday off because I wasn't feeling great mentally. So it is a lot of studying, but once again, a lot of it is just getting ahead so that by the time the material hits your desk, you're familiar with it, you know what's going on, and it's not catching you off guard. So that's the main thing. Other than that, I'm going to study for my phys exam. I'm probably going to run through some slides. We'll see how my little strategy pays off. I'm going to read the fine details, but I'm not going to sit there on one slide for 2 minutes. If you spend 2 minutes on every slide, then you're going to be studying for a long time. So once again, just hitting highlights, key concepts, what are the main takeaways, and just roll with it from there. EKG, I'm going to do the complete opposite. EKG, I'm going fine detail. So yeah, that's that. So we'll just have to see how that goes, and I'll catch up with you in the next video. Hopefully it's a positive video and it's not going to say I failed my exam on my little iPad, but alright. Other than that, I will catch you in the next one, and best of luck.